I'm about to open my St. Valentine's Day gift. Okay? All right, my St. Valentine's Day gift. Oh ha ha! 'Tis a jet blue model. That's what I wanted in this one for. Oh, that's beautiful.
Oh, okay.
That's the stand. Not damaged. Everything's fine. Wouldn't be a model if I didn't drop a part. Oh, this is gorgeous.
Well, happy Valentine's Day, mi amor.
Thank you, baby. I'll get this together and take some pictures.
Time. What am I? Who am I? What will I be? Where am I going? And what will I see? Searching my mind for some truths to reveal. What thoughts are fantasy? What memories real? Things that I've seen. Is it my life or just something I dream?
The answer is to keep it. You'll believe it when you find something screaming across your mind. Green slime. What can it be? What is the reason? Is this the end to all that we've done? Is it just something in your head? Will you believe it when you're dead? Green slime, green slime, green slime.
I'm about to open my St. Valentine's Day gift. Okay? All right, my St. Valentine's Day gift. Oh ha ha! 'Tis a jet blue model. That's what I wanted in this last for. Oh, that's beautiful.
Oh, okay.
That's the stand. Not damaged. Everything's fine. Wouldn't be a model if I didn't drop a part. Oh, this is gorgeous.
Well, happy Valentine's Day, mi amor.
Thank you, baby. I'll get this together and take some pictures.
Far beyond the world I've known, far beyond my time. What am I? Who am I? What will I be? Where am I going? And what will I see? Searching my mind for some truths to reveal. What thoughts are fantasy? What memories real? Long before this life of mine, long before this time, what was there? Who cared to make it begin? Is it forever or will it all end? Searching my past for the things that I've seen. Is it my life or just something I dream?
door, you'll find the secret. To find the answer is to keep it. You'll believe it when you find something screaming across your mind. Green slime. What can it be? What is the reason? Is this the end to all that we've done? Is it just something in your head? Will you believe it when you're dead? Green slime, green slime, green slime.
about to open my St. Valentine's Day gift. Okay? All right, my St. Valentine's Day gift. Oh ha ha! 'Tis a jet blue model. That's what I wanted and that's what I asked for. Oh, that's beautiful.
Oh, okay.
That's the stand. Not damaged. Everything's fine. Wouldn't be a model if I didn't drop a part. Oh, this is gorgeous.
Well, happy Valentine's Day, mi amor.
Thank you, baby. I'll get this together and take some pictures. Input capture. Okay, guys, can you hear us? Let me turn the Hannibal picture off. Okay. All right. Now, let me get this centered up right. Okay. A little smaller. There we go. Well, hello, Glue Troopers, Max and Max's Models. And first off, let's get a little bit of a sound check here. Can you guys hear us? I'm running about a 12-second delay. Yep, they can hear us. Okay, great. Ken is at the boat show, so he may or may not get home in time to join us later, but right now we're planning to do it just us, and our subject for the night is going to be space stuff. But before we get into that, we'll get into our usual, just start off with a tangent here. So, since it was on Facebook, I guess you can talk about it. Atlantis was... at NERM? What were they? Toy Fair?
Toy Fair in New York.
So, I
Any
guess...
of you guys see it?
Huh?
Did any of you guys see it?
If you guys saw it in the Facebook Atlantis models over at Toy Fair, you got to take a look. I have seen a lot of videos from Toy Fair. Steve, I have reached a decision.
Okay.
I am going to change my mind. I'm not above admitting that.
All right.
If you recall at Toy Fair, they had that, I think, 1/32 scale 3D printed A7 Corsair 2, the jet. Okay, very impressive. I did read the criticisms of it, that the seam lines were too deep, you know, and but I'm like, and I was talking with Ken about this, like, you know, that's just making a little change to the code, and those things get smaller. Now, you and I had this discussion many times, and you brought up, you know, you've asked, and Ken has asked, and other people asked, do you think 3D printing is going to replace styrene models? And I said no, for a very good reason. You cannot rapidly manufacture 3D kits like you can styrene. Once you make the mold, you know, you can crank out one every minute. We know it takes hours to produce something in 3D printing. But I'm rethinking that. Yes, we're doing space, so I did wear the red shirt. This is the phaser bait shirt. I don't know if you guys can see that, but anyway. I also have the other one with the burn marks on it. They're both basically the same thing. Monica got me that one. And by the way, happy Valentine's Day, everybody. Huge thanks to my wife for that lovely Airbus A321 model she got me. So now I have both of the airplanes, the 190 and the 320. Well, I flew the 320 and the 321, but they're the same family. So I have what I flew at JetBlue. And by the way, Steve, can you believe this? Next April 1st, April Fool's Day, it'll be a year since I retired. When I look back, it feels like it's been 2, maybe 3 months. And there's tangent number 1.
See how time flies when you're having fun?
It really does. And you know what? We need to invent the tangent meter. Every time we go off on a tangent, click takes one off. So there's one. Just like how long it takes me to mention Godzilla. Wow.
Okay.
We're a whopping 2 minutes in.
4 minutes.
4 minutes.
4 minutes.
So I do believe that conventional styrene models have a very long, if not somewhat limited life ahead of them. But yes, I have changed my tune. I do believe 3D, especially high quality resin 3D printing, is going to replace a lot of the resin models that are specialties. And it's not going to replace the mass produced stuff, but it is going to become more niche oriented. It's going to become a bigger part of the industry because with a simple change in a few things on a few lines of code, what I think you're going to see evolving in the future is the ability to have quasi custom made models. Hey, you guys make an A7 Corsair. When I was, my dad was, grandfather was in the Navy. God, I can't believe I'm saying that about the Corsair too. That airplane was in service when I was. Well, my grandfather flew the Corsair too. He flew this model, that model off that ship and with this ordnance load on this mission, and they'll be able to, you'll send them a picture and they'll go, yeah, and they will 3D print you that model. Kind of like the way the custom wood carvers do. And this is going to be as much of a problem for the custom wood carving guys as anything else, so they better get with the new technology. And the thing that made me think that was not only a couple of models that I saw at Toy Fair, but also I saw some new technology that a kit model channel, I'm sorry, I forget which one, I should have written it down. You can take a photograph, outline the part you want, plug it in a computer, and it will generate essentially an AI image. You can clean that up, and that can go in 3D print. So you can make a character from virtually any photograph, any clear photograph.
There's somebody that's doing that if you go to a concert, and you take a picture of whoever the performer is and send him the picture, for a fee, he'll make you a statuette of the performer.
So I think there is a bright future for this. And the nice thing is it's a cottage industry. It's the kind of thing that anyone with a good resin 3D printer and some skills can do. So that's going to keep the prices down because there'll be so much competition. And
see, part and parcel to that is the role of AI and advanced scanning.
Yes, absolutely. That's exactly what it is.
Because now we talk about all the time kits that will never be made again because the mold was destroyed.
Mm-hmm. Now you can have that kit.
Yes. Now they have technology. If you have one of those kits, they can scan it and it will cut a mold for that kit with all the parts, and you can then reproduce it in styrene.
I just had, this gave me a thought. What you just said, okay? You can have any kit you want from our website, and we'll call it Only Models.
There you go. Yeah. Now,
or if you really want to be more accurate, we'll call it.
No, don't go there.
Don't go there.
Don't go there.
This is why she restricts me to one.
Oh, well, if you look at the Monster Scenes kits that Atlantis is coming back out with, the old Aurora kits, now those molds were destroyed.
Mm-hmm.
But
thanks, Abe.
Yeah. The guy who had the rights to them, he went over to China. There's a factory that if you have the kit, they 3D scanned it and made new molds. That's why they're coming out with all of those kits, because they were able to make new molds from an existing kit.
That's how an online acquaintance of ours made the second Aurora Godzilla mold and the Metaluna Mutant. Yep. Okay? Yeah. That second Godzilla, which used to run $300 for one, I was very fortunate to get my hands on one, thank courtesy of his generosity, and I've helped promote it since then. But a lot of people don't know that Aurora made a second Godzilla mold, but it never went to production. But the pattern was there, and he got that. And to his credit, when the gentleman in California who'd been a former Aurora executive, they said, "Okay, guys, we're going out of business. We're sending all the molds to Monogram. If there's anything in the vault you want, you can have it." He grabbed that one, and it was the wooden pattern. Excuse me. And when this individual, do you think he'd care if I said his name? Maybe I should help promote him, or no?
Yeah.
Okay. It's Phil Saporano. Okay, he's out on YouTube. He's the one that has his whole garage built underneath it. He's converted basically an Aurora museum. You know, Phil really needs to just make people pay $5 to come see that stuff. Anyway, the point I'm getting at is that Phil spent a lot of time, effort, and money. And when the guy said, "I'll sell you the thing for $2,000," Phil was like, you know, dude, it's worth a whole lot more than that. And he basically doubled that. I mean, I'm going to write you a check for this amount because Phil's a decent guy. And, you know, he was like, I don't think you were aware of just what this is worth. And that, to me, Phil he's always going to be a great guy in my book. That takes a special kind of honesty, you know.
But you see, now what we're talking about now, this is probably the same discussion that guys like Reeder and Besser were having right when the 50s started, when everything was still wood with a couple of plastic parts.
Well, Monogram was so conservative, they eased into the styrene. Yep. I've seen their 60s stuff. They still had some of their Speedy builds in the catalog.
Yeah. Yep. You know, is this styrene stuff going to make it? Is this going to be? And you know, that's where we are now. You can't
blame them for that attitude.
No, because
you're one bad decision away from going bankrupt by buying a bunch of equipment that 2 years later no one's using.
It's hard to make the leap from being successful at what you're doing to, if this doesn't work, we're out of business. And unfortunately, that's part of the toy/hobby business.
Just real quick, 30 seconds, for those who don't remember, give a snapshot of the Get Along Gang and what it did.
I worked for Tomy Toys in the early 80s. And there had been several successful licenses from American Greetings. It was Rainbow Bright, and it was, I think it was Care Bears, and it was a couple of others.
So they were doing good.
So a new thing that was going to be a TV show and books and, you know, the whole 9 yards, called the Get Along Gang. And so Tomy jumped on this with both feet, and we had a whole bunch of products. And they put it on television early. We sold it in heavy. And this stuff was stiffer than wood.
It did. It just sat on the shelves.
It just died a really painful and expensive death. And they had already had stuff in the queue for the following year.
What do you figure their monetary investment in inventory and prepping for the next year was?
Oh, it was probably $200 million back then. And you're talking this is the 80s, okay? And so
can you turn your speaker down a little bit? It's
oh yeah, sure. And there is inventory everywhere. And so now it comes to Toy Fair, and we show the new stuff, and these guys come in and say, "We got warehouses full of it. You know, here's the computer run.
Yeah.
Here's what we bought. Here's what we sold. Here's how many we had left. Okay, we're going to give you markdown money." Well, there's not enough markdown money in the gold depository at Fort Knox to make this stuff hit a price that's right. Well, this kind of a loss ultimately took them down and made them go into bankruptcy. And
so there you go, guys. So I just wanted to paint that picture so people understand, you know. So Besser and Reeder were not going to jump both feet into something. They were going to go in. They were going to ease their way in. And once they realized, hey, it looks like this is over a couple of years, they moved in. And once they did, they committed to it. But
see, Revell was a different story.
But they were already a plastics maker.
Because Glazer was making plastic toys, you know, he's making plastic dollhouse furniture and other things out of plastic. So he had experience in plastic, and with him, that was the way to go.
Aurora, Renwall, and Revell were already plastics makers before they began. AMT and MPC already had AMT had the demos, so did Johan. So they were already, staying in it was not much of a leap. But Monogram was a model maker, mostly wood, and they're trying, and Strombecker was real slow, and they finally just sold out. They were like, we're not. And Strombecker, to give you an idea what a shoestring operation that was, they started off using leftover wood scraps from a nearby lumber yard. I mean,
But to show you how Strombecker bet the farm, two of the kits that are behind you on your shelf next to you, which were part of the Disney Man in Space series of kits, they jumped in and bought the license and made those kits and did pretty well with them. But the problem is the rest of the line just didn't carry.
Right. And they wound up selling some molds first. Their TT-1 jet trainer and the T-37 Cessna jet trainer. They sold that to Aurora. And I remember when I bought my Aurora T-37, and I remember, so I wouldn't be bothered by my 6 siblings. I ran in the bathroom and locked myself in. I'm sitting on, not going to the bathroom, I'm just sitting on it, looking at it. And I see the two pilots, the box are the two pilots going out to train. And I'm like, oh, I want to be an Air Force pilot so bad, Yeah, exactly, like Ralphie. Exactly. Okay. So let's get back on track here. Well, guys, tonight we're going to, first off, Fran, I'm glad Fran's thing went well. And I don't want to divulge information. It's his private stuff. But he's doing fine. And hopefully he's going to be with us tonight if he can manage it. But everything went fine, so he's good to go. And I would like very much in the next few months, sometime, if Trey and Fran and I could get over to Fort Rucker. Now Trey trained at Fort Rucker because he was a helo mechanic, and Fran's a retired colonel, so maybe he's still got the retired ID badge. You can get us in without too much hassle. And I have made contact with one of the instructors there when I was doing the Mustang, the Army chase plane videos. And he helped me out a lot. The P-51 chase plane that they have in the museum, which is the first one they bought, the actual straight D model, not the Cavalier conversions, they kept that for the museum. And it's in a back room. It's back where they do their award ceremonies and everything, because they don't have room out on the floor. There's a small possibility he may be able to get us back there because he knows some folks that work at the museum. But that's not a sure thing. But if we can pull it together, I would love to go out there. Last time I went to the Fort Rucker Museum, they still had the big heavy lift helicopter that never flew out front. God, that thing was impressive, but it's gone now. It corroded to the point they had to tear it down. But I don't want to get sidetracked on a gazillion stories. That's tangent 2, 3, 4. I think we're on tangent 4. Anyway, so hopefully we'll get to do that at some point in the future when Fran feels up to it. Okay, so starting off, I thought the first kit, and by the way, guys, we're only going to get to a sample of these things. When I started making slides for this, there are so many space kits out there that there's just no way we could cover this in a week, never mind a 2-hour live stream. Now, we're going to be talking about real space kits and Flash Gordon, or excuse me, sci-fi, anything space oriented. So I thought I'd kind of start at the beginning with the early sci-fi, which predated actual stuff going into space by human hands. And of course, Flash Gordon and Buck Rogers. And this one called Perry Roden, which we'll talk about in a second. I don't know about you, Steve, but I was a little surprised. I couldn't find any regular Flash Gordon styrene kits other than the ships, other than one of Flash Gordon himself. But, we're talking about a character that was so prolific in early science fiction that he got his own part of the Rocky Horror Picture Science Fiction theme song. Yet, Fantastic Plastic seems to be the only one that makes any of the ships from the movies, old ones or new ones. Buck Rogers, Monogram made a few things. They made the Starfighter and the enemy ship and his Ranger 3. And I had to get to find one of the original Buck Rogers ships. I had to go down to one of the resin makers. I'm kind of surprised how poorly represented it is, but then I realized these things have been sitting on the shelves at hobby shops. They just don't move, which is kind of sad. And the Perry Roden,
Buck Rogers is kind of like a generation past.
Yes,
it never really has, translated to, the current trade, so to speak.
There is rumor that they're trying to make a Buck Rogers. By the way, quick tangent. The Buck Rogers TV show. Now, the way I understand it, if I'm not mistaken, is they made the 2-hour pilot. It didn't sell, so they released it as a movie. It did fairly well at the theater enough they said, hey, okay, then they went ahead and made the show for a couple of seasons. Gil Gerard, who sadly passed away last December. But but Monogram did make a few of them. They made the Draco ship. They made the Ranger 3, and they made the Starfighter. For a very short time. Apparently they didn't move that well. And I get it, kit model business, you got to move the styrene. If it doesn't sell, you quit making it. But I heard recently, very recently, that you cannot find the Buck Rogers TV show on DVD or anywhere else.
No.
Because there is for lack of a better word, a custody battle over the music. Which I used in the intro, by the way. Apparently, the production company that made it changed hands several times, and now there's a big squabble over who owns the rights to the music and the guy who wrote it, blah, blah, blah. So now it's hung up in, legal limbo. So it's not available on DVD or on net streaming or anything else. Not that it was the greatest show, but, I mean, come on, man, Anyway, now, if that's hung up, you're probably hung up with the rights on the models, too. Perry Roden, there are a bunch of these Perry Roden kits over at Hurricane Hobbies right now. He got them in one of those estate purchases. I never heard of
kits.
What's that?
They're Revell Germany kits.
Right, because it's a German sci-fi.
It's a big thing in Europe, but not here.
Yeah, they didn't even start making them until 1999. And I'd never heard of them. And I looked it up. And they literally, if you go to Wikipedia and type in Perry Roden, it says a German space opera. So, okay, I got it. But Revell Germany made a bunch of kits for actually more than we've made for Flash Gordon and Buck Rogers. And which is, frankly, I just find that a little embarrassing. But if you happen to be a Perry Roden fan, there's still kits out there. And if you're interested, I almost bought the ones that Ian has just because they're rare in America. But what am I going to do with it? I don't read the books. I'm not familiar with the series. I probably wouldn't get around to building them, and I doubt I could resell them, so they probably become boat anchors. But me and models, man. No one else has it. I could be the only kid on my block with one. Ooh, what fortune. But this is kind of the beginning, the early stuff, and I was just kind of surprised that the Flash Gordon Buck Rogers stuff is so poorly represented. But that leads us to something that's not poorly represented. You talk about early sci-fi. Well, let's talk about the earlier rockets. And one thing I have to say is that the early rockets are very well represented in styrene kits. I've built both of them, but I've had two of the missile arsenals, which, by the way, I might add, changed with time. They updated them. The last one I built has cruise missiles and all this stuff. The first one I had was back when everything was an old straight pipe missile. But, and the Aerobee High, that thing keeps getting repopped. The boys at Atlantis just redid the, it was another Tartar missile. Anyway, they just put out one of the old missile, and well, it's not a space missile. We're talking about space. It's actually an anti-aircraft missile. But
it's actually a sounding rocket.
Yeah. But some of those things did make it to what's technically classified as space, so I'm including them. But they had the Thor, the Vanguard, the Project Bumper, the X-17, the V2. The V2 was the first man-made thing to actually go into space.
Well, see, now you have to take the time frame that stuff was made. Back in the 50s, you read about this stuff in the papers every week.
Oh, yeah. Explorer 1.
It was a big deal.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You had the space, before the Russians sent Sputnik up, and we were still trying to figure out what was going on with rocket technology and develop it. They were coming out with all these new rockets, and you'd read about it, and they'd make models of them. And then once Sputnik hit, and it became, quote-unquote, the space race, I mean, it was in the paper every day, and you would see all these new rockets, and they'd make kits of them, and you'd go out and buy them, because that was part of your everyday life.
Hold on, before we go any further. Bad, Stuart Gregory. Bad. Okay, continue. Continue.
Oh, yes.
Yes, the X-17 was in the last viewer's build, and it was a beautiful job. Made me want to go out and get one. Now, what is that rocket that you want to get that Atlantis is supposed to repop?
Oh, the XSLO1
Okay, yeah.
and the Helios, the one that's
And the
coming out
Helios,
later in
yeah.
the year. Yeah.
So I have to give them credit though that at least you know when you start getting into the real world, and you're absolutely right about this reflected the real world, but a lot of these kits are still being made, like the one by Tacoma are still being made today. They're even new molds. Sadly, Horizon Models went under because that's what they did, and it broke my heart that they didn't survive. I think they sold their molds because I built a few of them. I got one they haven't built yet, and they're really good kits and very detailed. Early rockets are still, thanks to goobers like me who love this stuff, they're still made, but like you say, back in the 50s, early 60s, I mean, my God, you couldn't print these things fast enough.
Well, Eric brings up an important point. When they came out in the 50s, they were hot for like a year.
Mm-hmm.
And then they kind of just drifted off and they got taken out of the line.
Well, yeah, I guess what it is you have a certain generation, a certain group of young people like, oh, I got to have that. But once that moment passed, yeah. But I'm sure they made their money on them.
It's not like you're going to get two of them. You know?
That's a problem with anything pop culture. Is that as Brian Knapp points out, you know, the problem with, you know, the thing about pop culture, it's only popular while it's popular. You know, you might as well be one of the Kardashians. But you're big for a minute, you know, very Andy Warhol, and then you're on to the next thing, which brings us to the next thing. No human on this planet has had more impact on space travel, I mean real space travel, or what we thought would be space travel than Herr Werner von Braun. You know, as I understand it, the proper way to say that is von Braun. But everybody says von Braun or von Braun because we're Americans. And we won the war and we'll say your name however we want to. But I didn't even know that Icarus made the bottle spacesuit kit, which is pretty cool. I got the little one.
Yes, they did. Very limited run. Very limited.
And I don't blame them because there aren't that many people who want it, but I'm one of the people who, if I'd seen
I
it,
wanted it, and
it
it was gone in the blink of an eye, and nobody had it.
Yeah, they should have doubled their run. And of course, you and I both have the retriever rocket. You know, I'm going to turn this off for a second here. You have the retriever rocket as your backdrop, and I got the model I built right here. And I couldn't resist all these beautiful decals, and I just wanted to, you know, pimp it out a little bit. So I pimped my ride a little bit with some, you know, Air Mobility Command and Navy. It's a shared multi-service, and but
the R1, the space station, which is on your desk, and the TWA Moonliner, the actual ones that they used in the Disney Man in Space.
That Moonliner right there?
That one. The ones that they actually used in the Disney Man in Space movies that Disney did, when they were at Space Camp when I went there with my son, because they had a tour
at Huntsville, yeah.
And they're big. They are really big. I was shocked.
Well, you see Von Braun standing by one in the Disney Man in Space thing. Yeah. It's that very one. It thinks like 4 or 5 feet in diameter.
I mean, the space station's enormous.
I don't remember seeing it when I was there. I don't know if they took it down or if I just missed it. I might have. And I got to tell you something. One of the things, going back to these kits, one of the things about these Von Braun concept kits. Now the Lindbergh's not Von Braun. The Strombecker is. The white one in the middle, lower, is based on it, I'm sure. But and the one bottom right, the Mobius 2001 Space Station, is absolutely inspired by it. But the bottom left one is the actual Von Braun Space Station. Everything else is spin off of that. I've got the Von Braun. I've got the Lindbergh hanging out. It's actually hanging in the garage because I ran out of places to put it. And I've got this one here. Because it came with a stand. I mean, the reason it's being displayed in the house is because it came with a stand. I saw the 2001 Space Odyssey one at, I think, PamsCon a couple of years ago. The guy did a great job, had it all lit up and everything. That is a complex kit. There's a lot. It's big and there's a lot of parts to it, but it is awesome. He had it on a base. I think if I was going to display it, I would see if I couldn't display it hanging somehow. Just because seeing it on a base. Don't get me wrong. He did fantastic work, but just seeing it on a base kind of, takes a little of the magic away. I'd see if there's some way I could hang it or suspend it, just to make it look that much more impressive.
There was a guy who had one of those at the Nationals.
Yes.
Yeah.
Might have been the same one. I don't know.
Could have been.
But, and of course, in the center, you have the Von Braun, rocket, and what looks like a Chesley Bonestell painting. And but all these kits, these are what we thought space travel was going to look like, and had the money been there, probably would have. I have 4 or 5 of these kits already built, including the lunar lander. Which, by the way, guys, that lunar lander center left, you may not think that the lunar module looks much like that, and visually it doesn't. But it does use the same basic plan form. That is a descent and ascent stage engines and everything. It's just packaged differently with a skeletal frame with no mylar over it. But that was a Von Braun idea, and that is basically, although much more compressed, how the lunar module is put together. But they were coming up with these ideas in the 50s. I mean, cars had tail fins and didn't have seat belts. Come on, that's just awesome. So, anyway.
You know what I would love to see, but nobody ever made a kit of?
What?
I would love to see somebody make a kit of the satellite with Leica the dog in it.
Too soon.
Okay.
Now, this is Trey's Hannibal and the German flying saucer, which never existed. It's, they had some fantasy drawings of it. And everybody's like, oh, the Germans were making spaceships. No, they weren't. They wish they were. But I have one. I'm going to get around to it, but I'm going to do mine in Lufthansa colors. Everybody makes it in the, in the German Luftwaffe colors. No. I'm going to do post-war for my big science, for my big flying saucer sales presentation I plan to make. I'm going to put it in like Lufthansa markings and get rid of the guns and everything, make it more like an airliner. But
sounds like an episode of Fallout.
Oh, tell me that would not go perfectly in the Fallout universe. But we can't talk about space models without talking about 50s sci-fi. All right? It simply cannot be done. Not in polite company. And I just picked a few sample cases, which are the high-profile ones. Obviously, you cannot do this without Plan 9 from Outer Space, which is just the Lindbergh flying saucer without the motors on it, and everything's painted silver because Ed Wood was either a madman or a genius or a little of both. What did those kits cost back then? 29 cents? And he only used 3 of them to make a movie that people still talk about today. Considered by many people to be the worst movie ever made. And I watched it, and it is bad. But it's like a train wreck. You can't stop looking at it. Then, of course, Earth versus the Flying Saucers, which is, what, a 4-piece kit? Then my personal favorite, the War of the Worlds, the Martian, the Manta Rays with the Cobra heads. And no one makes The Day the Earth Stood, makes Klaatu ship from The Day the Earth Stood Still, except these little garage companies. Which, man, that's just not right. That'd be like the easiest kit. It's a freaking dish. It's a hubcap, for God's sake. Yet it's one of the most famous movies ever made. I can't believe that somebody didn't just knock out, I mean, a drunk mold maker on a weekend can make the mold for that thing. So which of these do you think is the most influential? Which, for me, it's the War of the Worlds kits, but...
Yeah.
Earth versus the Flying Saucers, I watched it recently again. That movie is better than it has any right to be.
Oh, yeah. It's a good movie, believe it or not.
The idea that a stake body Chevy pickup can take out intergalactic flying saucers just cracks me up.
Now think of it. Buy the stake truck from Atlantis.
We already had that submitted for a viewer's build by the same guy who did the robot monster, and which is just the gorilla with the diving helmet, and it worked perfectly. Get the Atlanta stake body truck. You can make your own laser interrupter for it, and then put it by those things. It just, you know, you can't call yourself a nerd if you're not working on that.
I'm surprised nobody's ever made a kit of the space people from that movie.
I can't either. I mean, just this is low hanging fruit. I mean, I get it. There's a very limited audience, but come on, those. It would not be hard to make those molds, you know. Nope. And I haven't even found a garage one yet, but they're probably out there somewhere. Now, the one thing that spells space, and it was the first. Some of the guys got the earliest astronauts' wings in them, is of course the X-15, which I love how Aurora called it the X-15 satelloid rocket plane.
Now, the thing is, how many different manufacturers have made how many different kits of the X-15?
Everybody.
Yep, there's got to be hundreds of them.
To its credit, it is about the most produced kit out there. And I get it. It's got a lot of crossover appeal. It appeals to the airplane guys. It appeals to the space guys. It appeals to the science guys. It appeals to the, America could do anything guys. I mean, it has a great deal of crossover appeal to a great many people for a lot of reasons. And you can also, of course, like deal with Atlantis and the monogram kit, you can do the B-52 with it too. So you're like, hey, I build airplanes. Well, here's one where it's got a B-52 with it. I'll take two.
I think that's a great kit. I really do.
Yes. And, I mean, you're a little older than I am, so you may remember. This is before my time. But I grew up with Jiminy as a little kid and Apollo as a not so little kid. But by the time I was a teenager, it was all pretty much over except for Apollo Soyuz. But I can only imagine the excitement of, a 10-year-old, 12-year-old kid when X-15s were going up and all these science fiction movies were being made, half of which used stock footage from X2 and X-15. And what was that one where the guy, they used the stock footage from the X2, but they literally blurred it out, and the guy comes back, the astronaut comes back, and he turns into some sort of rock monster.
Yeah, that was, oh God, what was the name of that movie?
Somebody will remember.
First Man into Space.
First Man into Space, yeah.
One of my favorite movies.
I mean, it had kind of a sad ending, though.
Did. But the brother got the girl.
To me, the X-15.
I mean, when I was, you talk about when you were a kid, it was Apollo. I mean, it was Gemini and Apollo, and that stuff. When I was a kid, it was X2, X3, X5.
Yeah.
It was that stuff. The skyrocket. That's what it was, and then it went into rockets full time.
The reason that test pilots got that right stuff image was back in those days, engineers would scratch out numbers on paper, make a best guess, but it wasn't until some hot dog strapped himself in the cockpit and said, okay, let's see what happens when we go this fast. And they killed a lot of them learning. But learn we did. And a lot of tombstone technology. The Right Stuff is a popular movie even today because it was a period in time that crossed the scientist with the cowboy. And
it was during the period when it was we can do anything.
Yes. And I think the X-15 may be the ultimate personification of that. And that, by the way, the upper right, the X-15 coming into land with the F-104 beside it.
It's Mike's picture.
Well, it's not Mike's, but it's clearly inspired by it because the F-104 is in different positions, different artwork. But that was Mike's is called First Reentry because that was actually the first guy to go into space. And
Got that hanging on the wall here.
I'm looking at mine right now too, and I mean it truly was the golden era of.
I mean, it was an
test
amazing time. The things they did with the materials and the technology that they had at the time.
Oh, they were inventing materials to do this stuff.
They were just making it up as they went along.
And I watched one of my favorite episodes of Strange New Worlds, which I know a lot of hardcore Star Trek fans can't stand it, but I think it's hilarious. It's the one where they brought the actors from Lower Decks in, the cartoon. They brought them in as real people, where they accidentally go back in time and meet Pike and everything. And Bomer, the young ensign, is telling the crew of the Enterprise, he goes, "You guys don't understand. This is the golden era of exploration." And, Kirk and Spock and McCoy lived in the golden era of exploration. You watch even Next Generation, a lot of times they're just going places they have already been, In the original Star Trek, they were going places they'd never been. And the X-15, that from 50 to 65, that's the golden era of space of aerospace research. I mean, Christ, we're shooting guys into space in this tiny little black metal bucket but it's basically just a flying rocket engine with stub wings. And hope you make it back okay.
Well, it's like Gator used to say when they talked about the space capsules, it's spam in a can.
Spam in a can. And those guys, I'm sure they set off metal detectors going through airport security every time just from their balls clanging. But anyway.
I mean, they had to fight to get control of the ship in the ship.
Yeah.
Because they didn't want to give them retros and
which Gordon Cooper proved to them. Good thing we had it when his Mercury had the all the stuff, and then Gemini had the computer failure. Yeah. So another highly influential space opera that you cannot ignore, of course, is 2001. And that didn't dawn on me until I put this slide together, just how influential 2001 was. I mean, you're talking about 6 or 7 different kits from one movie. The little EVA pod, the space station, the Orion, which has been made several different ways by everybody from Airfix to Mobius or Polar Lights. Then you got the Moon Bus, the Ares 1B, of course the Discovery. That's a lot of kits to come out of one movie, and apparently they're all still pretty good sellers. The only one I built a couple of the Orions, and I got another on the shelf I need to get to. I built it back when it was like an Aurora kit with the Pan Am logos. And
well, when that movie came out, it was so far ahead of anything you'd seen up to that point. It was just amazing.
People walked out of theater going, "What did I just watch?" And
it was way. I mean, you actually, at the time, felt like you were in what would be 2001.
Yes, and the spacesuits, Bowman spacesuit, the spacesuits are probably still amongst the best Hollywood designed spacesuits ever made. They look like a functional spacesuit.
Yep.
The Orion, the single stage orbit Orion, everything about it. I watched a big long documentary about the making of it. The amount of stuff that was invented, the amount of special effects that were invented. One of the things they did when Discovery makes the long flyby and you see everything up so close and crystal clear, Kubrick knew there was no way to film that in real time. In order to get a focal length that will allow you to focus the entire ship at one time, you have to dial the focal length way back, which makes it a light hog. You have to literally sit there with the lens open on those little cameras. So Kubrick had a track set up and a camera that would do one frame at a time. He would lock the frame in, get everything in focus, open the shutter, and he had to leave it there for like, I forget what it was, 5 minutes or something, for it to absorb enough light to get a crystal clear picture. Close it, then tick it forward, the dolly forward one click, and do the whole thing. It took like a week to shoot that flyby because they basically had to take one slow-moving still picture at a time. And people forget when you get something that's really long. I mean, today it'd just be CGI, but back then you were using real cameras and real film. There was a lot of technique involved. And the thing is that Discovery is actually, although I don't know if you want to make it that long for torquing, of the body frame, but it actually kind of makes sense. Everything between the engines and the life pod is storage for like food and stuff and air and everything. And it gives you an idea how much crap you got to take with you into space to make a trip that long. And that's what 3 of the people in stasis were. Hal can murder them in their sleep, but I digress.
Well, if you look at the original plans that von Braun had to send the rocket to Mars,
He's going to send 7 or 9.
there was like 12.
Because he knew someone would break down on the way. They were basically extra lifeboats.
Yeah. And food and water.
Yep. And all the material you had to take. He goes, if one of them breaks down, you transfer the piece. So he had the way I saw it, he had like 9 and 2 of them were spares. And none of them were full to capacity of people. They were full to capacity of cargo, but none of them were full to capacity of people because he knew some would break down on the way and the crews would have to transfer. So, yes. Of all of these models, though, I think the Orion's probably the easiest to build. I would bet that space station's probably the hardest. Although if you build the Discovery, you got to figure out a way to keep it straight because unless you're going to hang it from 6 wires from the ceiling, you're going to need some kind of base that supports everything or put a metal rod through it. 2001, a single movie that produced all these kits, and the thing is, every one of them looks like real NASA hardware. Good job to the guys who came up with the look, and good job to Kubrick. Kudos.
How'd you like to be building those? Yeah.
Although I had to throw some Star Trek stuff up here just because you can't talk about space without talking about Star Trek, but we're not going to spend any time on it because that stuff's been beat to death. It's been analyzed 100 ways to Sunday. But if you're a space modeler, you've built Star Trek, and I'm working on those 2 shuttles right now, which, by the way, so far have proven to be really good kits. I'm very impressed with Polar Light's work on them. The details right and everything. I thought about trying to hustle through the shell on one of them so I could have it here on the table. I was like, nope, I'm not screwing these things up. And because that AMT Star Trek kit is just, I've got one on the shelf. I almost brought it out here. To be honest, they're kind of embarrassing. Everything about them is wrong. The body is shaped wrong. Why they put that angle in it, I don't know. It doesn't have the curved tops. The back is flat with just some decals on it. It's just not the way that it is not a good representation of the shuttle. It was clearly a quick and dirty. With this Polar Lights kit, it's excellent. So, anything you want to say about the Star Trek stuff?
Well, the only thing I can say about the Star Trek stuff is we all know the issue with the first Enterprise kit.
Saggy motors? Saggy britches?
Yeah. They did a better job on the Next Generation kit. And those friggin' things have sold since 1966.
And still selling today, baby.
They just keep changing the package, a little tweak here, a little tweak there, and now you've probably got 30 kits with all the different ships and the shuttles and all the other stuff.
The drawings I saw from Matt Jeffries of the original Enterprise was basically just the saucer section with a warp drive on the back. And then people were like, well, he went and taught at JPL. Well, something that puts out that much radiation is going to have to be away from the crew. And then he was going to stick it out on the engines out on pylons. And well, that doesn't look good. I tell you what, I'll create this secondary hull, have them come out of that. And Dan Monroe just did a thing on what happened to the Star Trek Enterprise models. And a lot of people don't know about the 66-inch model or the 4-inch model. But when Jeffries came up with the basic idea, And I've been told that it was actually other way upside down. And they said, yeah, but if you flip it over, it'll be more dramatic. So they flipped it over. And they apparently made like a 4-inch model to show to Roddenberry. This is what I got out of balsa wood, and Roddenberry approved it. That thing's lost history. They made the 33-incher, and then they made the 11-footer. Richard Dayton built them. And then apparently for Deep Space Nine Trials and Tribulations, I thought it was all CGI. It wasn't. They actually built a 66-inch model for that one episode. Go out and watch Dan Monroe's thing on that.
Did you ever see the original one in the Smithsonian?
Many times. I saw it before it got restored. Yeah. Back when it just had tape for windows before they tried to light it up and everything. The first one was basically the engine nacelles, including the Broussard collectors, were just block wood. They didn't light them till later on. And I saw it. By the way, I didn't realize this, but when I saw it was hanging from the ceiling. Turned out it was never designed to hang, so that actually started causing problems for it. But then I saw it after they had restored it for like the third time, and I was like, they cut out the windows, added lights, added weathering. I'm like, this isn't what it looked like. You guys marred up a piece of history. The only thing I think they didn't get touched was the top of the saucer section. But, don't get me started down that rabbit hole. Now, the easiest kit you will ever build, in my humble opinion, is the flying saucer from the Invaders. One could make the argument that the Invaders UFO, in many ways, is the most practical science fiction space vessel of all, because it was easy to make one for the show and light it, with the whirly white lights that go in a circle and the lit up engines. It looked like what people expected a flying saucer to look like, with the bell shape. And it's really easy to build and really easy to cut molds for and produce. So I think this might be, in a lot of ways, the single most efficient space kit model made.
I watched a video the other day about it. Interestingly enough, when the Invaders was pitched as a show, it wasn't pitched as a science fiction show. It was pitched as a political conspiracy show.
Well, that's what it is. It's Cold War conspiracy. Communism and infiltration.
But the network said, people won't buy that. So they said, let's make it a space show where it's invaders from another galaxy. And that's how they sold the show.
Interesting.
And then they it was the same idea, it was just different characters.
Instead of using Russians, you're using people from another galaxy. Okay, you got it. And I got to be honest, the beginning of that show, that's right up there with Godzilla and War of the Worlds. Was one of those, when I was a little kid, it was one of those terrifying things that gave me nightmares. I can still remember the opening speech, David Vincent, a man too long without sleep, And
Meanwhile, you're out of focus.
What?
You're out of focus.
Oh, well, you're watching Zoom. I actually have the card up, so.
Oh, okay.
Our happy faces are not on. You can pick your nose if you want.
Oh, good.
But now, one of my personal favorites was Jerry Anderson's UFO, which spawned a series of models also. I'm only dealing with space models, so I don't have Skydiver in here. And the Japanese seem to be the ones that were really, Bandai really jumped on the bandwagon with it, the Bandai bandwagon. I have the Interceptor. I should have brought that out here. I had the Bandai Interceptor, which is a good kit. It had, of course, like Bandai, they like to put the blade function in it, so it has the spring-loaded nuclear missile in front, which worked exactly one time before it broke, back in the old Tarbis. But I think these are cool kits. UFO had an awesome look to it. I always thought it was a really good show as a kid. I loved it. Couldn't believe it.
They also made the mobiles too.
Yeah, I only put pictures up of the space stuff. But they had the mobiles. They had Skydiver. Still surprised nobody made Foster or Straker's cars as regular plastic kits.
Dinky made a die-cast of it.
Yeah.
But that's not a model kit.
But the UFO stuff though had a really cool aesthetic to it. You know, I mean, moon base looked like a moon base, and I don't know. I just thought you know, it was probably Derek Meddings, you know, who did just a fantastic job. And
I don't know how MPC did with that kit of Moonbase.
my understanding, not well. I think I have one or had one. I might have given it to somebody, but it was just basically stamped vacuum form. It wasn't anything impressive. Not terribly impressive, but let's see. And of course, that led directly into Space 1999, which apparently was supposed to be UFO Season 2, and they decided not to go with UFO. But they built all these they reused. I'm sorry, I had the Space 1999 moon base, not the moon base from UFO. And but they spit out quite a few kits. This isn't all of them. These are just the ones I grabbed. Remember, these are just samples. And
see, I like UFO better than Space 1999.
Me too. Space 1999 got real weird real quick.
Real quick.
And the idea that a moon flying through space is going to travel, you know, through this distance, that kind of time, like, no. And you want to explain to me what they're eating?
Yeah.
Fortunately, I have 100 years worth of supplies on board. Max, how about a Jerry Anderson build? That's not a bad idea, actually.
Yeah.
But we've got, I haven't, you know, the end of the month is the end of the Irwin Allen build, and I've only got a few submissions. I'm hoping people will start sending stuff, because it's going to be a very short video at the way it's going right now. Seemed like a good idea at the time, but I guess Irwin Allen just didn't make enough stuff. But the stuff he made, we all remember making a different Ken. Not that Ken 2, not Ken 1. But Space 1999, the thing about me that the best thing they came up with is the Eagle Transporter. That looks like space hardware.
Yep. And I like the fact that they've enhanced it with aluminum parts.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I've got 1 or 2 Eagles on the shelf, and again, just one of the many things I need to get to. Kind of like a British Lost in Space. That's not a bad, actually not bad as a... Okay, hi, I'm submitting soon. Good, glad to hear it. Okay, so let's go on to the next one. Of course, you can't talk about space without talking about Star Wars. And this is not Star Wars, that's Starship Troopers. Okay, somehow I got Starship Troopers in the Star Wars one. Hold on. Let me just browse.
I didn't know there were any kits from Starship Troopers.
Not any mainline kits. They're all, there's, no, good God. Oh, I know what I did. I put together a Star Wars slide when I did the Starship Troopers. I accidentally covered it up. Well, you know what? It doesn't matter. We all know the Star Wars stuff, so that can kind of go without being said. Let's stay with Starship Troopers.
The bugs would have made an interesting kit.
The what?
The bugs.
There is a bug kit, but I was only dealing with spacecraft, so I didn't put them in there. But there is a Starship Troopers bug kit. You know what? Since you brought that up, let me just look real quick while we're chatting. Put in Starship, one word, Troopers. The bug kit. No, I saw one. Tanker bug from Warp Models. Mongoose. Oh, that's not a book. That's a book or something. Mongoose Publishing, 28mm. I guess that's for gaming. And the okay, these are all Mongoose Publishing arachnids. What do we have here? Arachnid tanker bug, one arachnid Empire tanker, 28mm. So I guess it is a kit. I guess it is a kit or something. So they do make them, but I don't think they're styrene models. But these Monsters in Motion does. You know, we have the ships with the new updated ships. You just see in a brief clip at the end. That's the closest thing I think they have to a regular plastic kit. Now, we can't really talk about space without talking about kits of astronauts. And I only grabbed pictures of astronaut kits of real space. Of course, you've got the Bowman from 2001 and a bunch of other stuff from science fiction. But science fact, there's only and that American astronaut with the MMU flying out of the Gemini. I wanted that kit so bad as a kid. One of my brother's friends had one. He went out at night, put some lights on it, and filmed it with his 8mm camera. And of course, it couldn't pick up anything in the background, so it's against the black sky. And when I saw that thing just hovering on a string, I was like, oh, I gotta have one of those. Never got one. And he also had the Invader's UFO that he had on a string that he was doing, like spinning it and doing like landings and takeoffs with, in like the high school hallway. So it looked pretty fake, but the astronaut in space looked really, really good. And yes, I am that geek that was outside with a couple of flashlights and an 8mm camera filming my space models against the sky for all the good it did. Of course, by the time I did it was X-Wings. I have the Apollo astronaut on the moon up on my shelf right now. Good, decent kit, not great. It's hard to detail it because everything's molded on. It's the bones of a good kit if you really want to get into making a lot of modifications to it. I actually vacuum formed the gold plate face piece because they give you that yellow one, which is just like, no, it's not yellow, it's gold, man. Either make it clear or I probably could have just painted gold paint on the actual. I don't think I really needed to vacuum form it, but it did. And got the Hasselblad camera on his chest. But the Gemini astronaut, Ed White floating around in space, I have that one right here behind me. But the one with the man maneuvering, not the, I have three of these. The one I don't have is what it says American astronaut. The MMU, I ran out of place to put it, so it's literally hanging in the garage. So he's doing an eternal spacewalk in the garage. I've got the Gemini astronaut on the shelf behind me, and I got the Apollo astronaut on the moon up on top of my shelf with my rocket farm. But the American astronaut I don't have. And that man maneuvering unit, which was a proto version of what you see on the lower right, never flew. They did bolt it to the back of the Gemini. The astronaut was supposed to go back there, strap in, and fly around. Never happened. And the first guy who was supposed to do it, I think, was Gene Cernan. And the reason was that NASA had not figured out yet that you need hard anchor points for an astronaut to work in space. So he, all they had were some of these flimsy little straps. So when Cernan got out there, he just kept floating around. He kept having to pull himself back to the ship. Well, even in zero gravity, you have to deal with mass. And as he kept pulling his body back and forth in a spacesuit, and this was one of the early suits. This wasn't an Apollo suit. This is one of the early silver suits. They didn't have the advanced cooling system that they had on the moon suits. And he very rapidly overheated. His visor fogged up. He couldn't see what he was doing. They wound up having to abandon it. And when he got back in and got everything buttoned up, took his helmet off, his spacesuit was just full of water from sweat. It was a real problem. NASA had grossly underestimated the problems they were going to face with extravehicular activity. When Ed White went out, the upper right one, he just drifted around. He just floated around, and his little squirt gun there was done in 4 or 5 shots. He even admitted that it worked great until it ran out of fuel. Within a few minutes of being outside, it wasn't working. It had expended its fuel, and that was part of what the MMU was supposed to deal with. And even the big modern MMUs were very limited in what they could do because they're using puffs of air for propulsion. But you only got so much on board. They learned everything in working out space is about being delicate and conserving energy. It was Buzz Aldrin that broke the code on that, but by the time he went up on Gemini 12, they were done with that phase, so no one ever flew that little MMU in space. Real shame. It would have been cool, but that's how we learned.
Meanwhile, if you go back in time and you look at that problem, if you remember Destination Moon, they
Yeah.
took the oxygen tanks and they straddled them like a horse and used them to get back to the ship
Uh-huh.
when they
Yeah.
got separated.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. Exactly. And they were aware of the problems. They didn't realize how serious they were until they went out and did it. But that's why you send astronauts up. That's what Gemini was all about, was learning. And we learned a lot. A great program. They even had a emergency, what was called the Big G. They had a big Gemini that was a backup if Apollo didn't work to go to the moon. So, of course, obviously, we cannot talk about space without talking about the Saturn V from Apollo.
hold on, wait a minute. What about the moon suit from
You know
Monarch?
what? I didn't even add that in here. I completely forgot about it. And that was a design that they were playing with. They never built it, but they never went into space. But that was for on the moon. That wasn't for like spacewalks. You lacked the you couldn't reach a lot of stuff. But on the moon, it probably would work pretty well. But they decided regular space. They're smaller, lighter. Had we continued with lunar exploration, they may have gone to something like the moon suit, as it would have been probably more reusable. One of the problems that they didn't think about, nobody knew about it. One of the problems with the moon suits, they're on the Revell kit on the left. They didn't really realize this until the later missions that were, like 3 days long with multiple EVAs. They got the suits back. They got them under a microscope. And they found out that the lunar dust, which you have to remember, that dust is made of extremely fine powderized rock. Okay? That's not dust as we know it here on Earth. Lunar dust is crushed rock. It's full of static charge, so it clings to everything, and it gets into everything. And they found out that it was working like a jeweler's rag, a jeweler's cloth, and it was polishing every moving component. And that after enough time out there, the seals on the spacesuit would not have been airtight, because it was like having a super ultra fine grit sandpaper on everything. And it was actually filing down the metal wrist fittings and all that stuff, and was eating into the suits. And if they're going to have an extended stay on the moon, they're going to have something to deal with the lunar dust, which is not a minor issue. Most likely they'll use a disposable oversuit. You get in your spacesuit, you're ready to go. Then you put on this basically like, CSI oversuit. And when that thing gets caked up as you're out here, when you come back in the airlock, you just take the whole thing off and they throw it away. But they said that lunar dust is a huge problem. And the moon suit that you're talking about, like Monarch makes, that very well may deal with that problem. Okay, I just turned the sound off by mistake. All right, here we go. So anyway, then of course Apollo. Most of us have built the 1 to 144 scale. I've got one up there. You get the 1 to 72nd scale one, or the 1 to 48 one, you better have an entire corner of a room for it, because they are huge. One of them, I think the 1/72nd scale one, the first stage is like a flat sheet of plastic that you curl and glue together, if I remember correctly. Okay. My personal favorite, the lunar modules, of which just about everybody and their brother made the lunar module, the Apollo command module, and a lot of guys made Saturn V's. And my understanding is that every company, Monogram, Revell, Ashima, Tammy, everybody who made these things sold them in the millions. It made this series of Apollo rockets, command modules, and lunar modules is very likely the best selling series in the history of real space. And understandably so. Okay, what else do we have here? I don't think there's a whole lot to cover on that. We've most of us have built them, but
Meanwhile, anything from the black hole?
I didn't get anything because there was so much stuff. I just had to pick and choose. I did not.
Okay.
The black hole is another one. The Cygnus has got to be probably the hardest,
Yeah,
vehicle.
that's a tough kit, and it's big.
There's that beautiful, largely I think 3D printed one the guy takes to the conventions, and it's the only one I've ever seen that does true justice to the Cygnus. But with all the glass and everything and that lattice work, I mean, I understand the kit's a real piece of crap, and
Yeah, the kit's pretty bad.
and but to make one that isn't, God, that would be a testament to your patience, and brittle and delicate. And obviously the space shuttles, they're another very popular one. I included Buran here, even though Buran never delivered a satellite. But I guess Art Models wanted to if it had. Although the one flight Buran did, which by the way had no one on board, it was completely automated, including the landing, was actually quite successful. I don't think it did the one orbit. The Russians could have had a working space shuttle. They just ran out of money. One enormous difference in the Russian space shuttle and ours. People go, oh, they copied ours. No, they didn't. No, they didn't. The shape of both shuttles was determined by aerodynamics. And as one NASA engineer said, man, if the Russians didn't have to steal our plans, they'd ask, we probably would have sent them a copy. We're proud of the shuttle. We like showing it off. And everybody could look at it and just see how it was shaped. But those shapes were determined by aerodynamics. And the Buran, you ready for this? Physically smaller than our space shuttle, but actually had equal or larger payload, because it did not have something our shuttle had. If you notice on the American space shuttle, you have those big booster engines hanging out the back. The Russians didn't. The only thing it has is maneuvering ohms, orbital maneuvering system, and re-entry thrusters. That's it. It doesn't have engines.
So it was a glider, basically.
Well, so was ours, but the thing was that ours would shed those. The solid rocket boosters lifted the fuel tank. The three engines on the shuttle are what actually flew it into space. It dropped the tank once the engines were done. Then they would jettison the tank. And then it would go into space and come down as a glider. And I assume it had some small amount of fuel left on board for a quick engine burn, but probably not much. The Buran did not work that way. All of the lift engines and go-to-orbit engines were on the booster. It went into space, and it did not separate anything until it was up in orbit, and then it separated, and the engines and everything went away with it. That gave them a smaller, lighter shuttle with this bigger or larger payload capacity. In a lot of ways, a lot of argument made that Buran was actually the better design, at least conceptually. And but they also had the benefit of seeing what we were doing and going, hey, we can improve on that. They also had the Energia rocket. I think was it Energia? Anyway, whatever rocket it went up on. But it was absolutely not a copy of our space shuttle. And one of the Burans is still around in some hangar abandoned in Kazakhstan or someplace. Russians is a different world. And of course, you have a lot of shuttle kits like this that are just the shuttle, but you also have the ones where the shuttle's on the stack. But probably far and away the most hardest thing to build is if you get that launch tower and space shuttle complex, even a 1 to 144 scale, that is a lot to build. And having tried to build a launch umbilical tower and thrown in the towel about a quarter of the way through it and said, screw this is too much, I was also running into a lot of problems. I know that building something, if you made a model of the launch umbilical tower for Apollo, it's incredibly detailed. And you get in that one with the space shuttle with the swing arms made on the old Apollo launch gantries. Good God, that's complicated. I've seen a beautiful 148 scale model down at the Cape. It must have taken the guy years to build that model. And it was all built from scratch. He was bending tubes and everything, but it probably made jigs for it. But good God, that is some... And of course, they did make that ridiculous Alien Invader kit because, hey, we got the shuttle molds, nobody's buying them. Oh, let's just paint it like a Batmobile and call it an alien ship. And
I have the 4D version.
well, the Moonraker was the easiest money they ever made. I mean, they already had the kit in production. All they needed was a new decal sheet. And
Yeah, I have the 4D one where it has clear parts.
uh-huh.
And you can see, inside of it and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty big, though.
Well, these kits, with whatever you want to put into them, you want to take a year to build one, you can get this masterpiece. But it's the thing about the space shuttle is I'd see these kits out of these detailed interiors. I'm like, yeah, if you're going to, okay, follow me on this. We're going to sell you a space shuttle with a booster stack and a detailed interior. I'm like, hold on a minute. When the shuttle's on the booster stack, everything's closed up. If you want to pose it with the doors open, then you don't use the booster stack. So, okay, seeing an issue here? But then again, that's probably just what they already had in production. Like, hey, let's just slap the boosters on it and remarket it. I have a couple of each, and some of the boosts, like I think the Airfix one is the Airfix one I have, or the Heller. It's just like the boosters are just clamshell. You just glue them together. I mean, there's no detail inside them, nor should there be. But I mean, it kind of had the idea that look, there's nothing in here to see. It's going to be on the booster stack, so everything's going to be buttoned up the way it should be. And, but those were hot sellers, and I think they're still in production today. The thing that the next thing we're looking at is the space stations, and the two big ones, of course, are Mir and the ISS. These very detailed kits. You have to have some way to support them. I got that Revell Command Center. Oh God, well, I didn't have the instruction sheet, but I was like, how am I supposed to hang this thing? I hated that kit. But the part about that Revell Space Command Center was like, it has tables and chairs. Why? You're in zero gravity. You don't use a chair. You don't use a table. But
Well, that's how the 50s space station from Revell was. It had little tables and beds and the whole 9 yards.
if you're on a wheel that's rotating and creating artificial gravity that way, sure. But this thing was just like Mir, and I'm kind of like, no, there's no gravity up there. These things are very difficult to build. There's a lot of lattice work. It's hard to make the solar cells look right. These are very finicky kits, especially the ISS. If you take one on, my hat's off to you. And but I have some satellite kits that I need to build. Those I kind of like those because when they're done, you hang them in the ceiling, they look pretty cool. But the ISS, I've seen some built ones, and guys did nice jobs on them. A lot of work went into it. But I'm like, it's just such an ungainly thing. You can't move it. I don't know how they get them to shows without breaking them. And it's a lot. Space station, I'd say space station is one of the toughest things you can build. Airfix has got their Artemis kit, and of course, as you might have seen from the thumbnail, they actually strapped the built Artemis kit onto a balloon and sent it up on the edge of space, and recovered it, which I think is just awesome. But, well, they got ones getting ready to lap the moon here before too long. And they do, I might go down and watch it launch. But, I don't mean to sound like that guy, but okay, you're going to go lap the moon. Why? Because we've been there before. I mean, and a lot of people are asking why we're even going. I mean, what are we going to do? What's the point? They go, well, it's going to go, and it's not even going to orbit the moon. I think it's going to this super long elliptical out and back. Well, they'll be further than any human's ever been from Earth, and they're going to fly by the moon on the way back. And I'm like, that's not the same as going into orbit around the moon. You don't have and apparently this is, I hate to say this, I feel like such a jerk for saying this, but apparently it's just a big publicity stunt. Look, we've gone back to the moon. Yay, look at us. Give us billions of dollars. NASA, yay. I don't know if you guys are familiar with a girl named Amy Shira-Tidal. She runs Vintage Space. And she's as much of a... She did her master's degree on the Rogallo Wing Gemini and everything. I mean, she's really into space in a big way, huge proponent. But even she was ripping on this on like an hour long. And I was like, she was making a lot of good points. Not sure... And it's kind of like, this just it isn't just political grandstanding. The NASA showing, look, we can still do stuff with a system that I don't know. Yeah, I didn't even get into Battlestar. I was looking at some Battlestar Galactica stuff, but I ran out of time making the slides. Anyway, but that's what NASA's doing. Meanwhile, Elon and Bezos are just busy making money launching satellites into space. And I heard Elon scratching his Mars plans, which I'm like, you better, because you're just going to kill some people. But, I mean, we got, was it Katy Perry going up into space for kicks and giggles? It's...
I think they ought to send her on the first Mars one.
But that's pretty much those little slides put together. And... Steve, oops, I did not mean to hit that button.
Yes.
I am going to have you take command for a second. I have to take a very quick break.
Okay.
Somebody asked about Battlestar Galactica, which I did not get some pictures of, but I'll let you answer the comments and take 10. I'll be back momentarily.
Well, yeah, I think that Battlestar Galactica would have been a good addition. I mean, there was quite a few kits. The Vipers, the Battlestar Galactica itself. Problem was, it was a limited amount of kits, but it was a good show. Spaceship Yamato? No, didn't cover that. Well, yes, Godzilla did go to space, and we had Space Godzilla come back. And no Leif Erikson or UFO mystery ship from AMT. The Leif Erikson was a kit that was originally supposed to be designed for Star Trek, and then they dropped it, and they'd already gone ahead and made all the preliminary engineering drawings, so they made the kit and just released it as the Leif Erikson. Yeah, the Cylon base star kit from Battlestar Galactica. It was a very weird shaped item. You also didn't have many figures from Battlestar Galactica. And you were right, Galactica was good when it got started, but by the end of the season it kind of petered out with the storylines. But the thing that really killed Galactica was it was the most expensive television show to be produced per week at the time. It was over $1 million because it was so many special effects in the show. And I see Max has heard our discussion. And there's the Viper.
Since he mentioned it, I had to run grab my Viper. And this is the old monogram Viper, which does not have any cockpit interior. And I bought this thing when it first came out. Before the show was even, I didn't even know what it was. I hacked it up and kit bashed it into something else for a home movie. But this one's pretty, battle damage, as you can tell. But I agree, the Battlestar Galactica kits are great. I think they have a great aesthetic. And the concept was good, but I think one of the problems they ran into the show also is kind of like, unlike Star Trek, where there's a different thing every month. In the case of Battlestar Galactica, we're always running from the Cylons. Might as well be an episode of The Fugitive. But I think the X-Wing, the Y-Wing, the Viper, and the UFO Interceptor are some of probably the coolest space fighters out there. I also have, I didn't grab it, but I have the Star Fury from Babylon 5, which is another one. And that is a good, believable vehicle. I don't think it looks as cool, but it's still a good vehicle. And the thing about the Viper that makes it so effective is it looks like a jet fighter. I mean, people look at it, they see instantly what it is, and that's
See,
one.
the thing that was interesting was when the show came on TV, or I should say, came on cable. They really didn't make any kits of anything from the show.
Well, they made this. They made the Cylon Raider. They made the Base Star.
No, I'm talking about when it came back.
Oh,
like
Mobius did, but not for a while. Yeah, and one I do love the Mobius kits because they have they have full cockpits in them and everything else. But and there were a lot of things you could add to these, the cockpit detail and stuff. Guys light them up and everything. But yeah,
but it was an interesting design of a ship.
It
really
is.
was,
It is.
because like you said, it looked like a jet fighter.
Yep. And well, basically, Galactica was an aircraft carrier. You know,
Yeah.
kind of combination aircraft carrier battleship, and the redesign for the more recent BSG was very faithful to the original. I do believe the original Battlestar and the Raiders and everything. I do believe that was for a first season show that was just kicking off. I do think that was one of the best aesthetics. They didn't really have to modify it that much for the re-release, and I enjoyed the Battlestar. I enjoyed both Battlestar series. That's one of the times I wasn't disappointed. There is a bit of a, I don't know what you call it, a flame war or whatever, on the internet about the new iteration of Star Trek, and Discovery and Starfleet Academy have not been faring that well, and I don't know. I the first 3-4 Star Treks had a pretty good aesthetic to them. They stayed very canon, even Enterprise in its own way. I remember I used to gripe about the new shows. Oh, they don't have this, they don't have that. But they kind of grow on you over time because change is hard. But the last couple of them, I don't think people are very, Discovery lasted a few seasons, and was it CBS Prime or whatever that channel was? They invested so much money, they were pot committed, they had to run the whole thing. But it became a meme. And then the Starfleet Academy, they got a bunch of money in that, and apparently it's not faring that well with fans. And my wife is a hardcore Star Trek fan, as you will find. And even she was like, if you want, we can quit watching it. But the last episode got a little more Star Trek-y, so it was like, okay. I think maybe it's finding its footing, but it's basically a college teen drama. And I don't mean to get off on TV shows. I'm sure there's plenty of great things about it, but I don't know. Star Trek for millennials, maybe. You're going to find this interesting because kind of switching gears back to Man in Space and Disney. That was before the whole Disney Man in Space thing was before my time. I'm not sure, but I think the first I ever actually learned of it, I may have seen it somewhere and not remembered, but I was at Huntsville in the 90s, late 90s, and they had this like 1950s living room under glass, behind the glass wall. And on the TV, they were just looping the Man in Space thing. And I was like, what's that? So a little bit later, a few years later, when YouTube was, I guess it was around 2000. And late in 2000, no, it would have been in 2002. The internet wasn't quite a thing yet. Then when YouTube came out one day, I stumbled onto it. Oh, I can watch, and I watched them all on YouTube, and I was like, oh, these are awesome. And I know Von Braun is a complicated subject. He's a controversial figure. But he was still largely responsible for our successful rocket and missile program. And when he went to Disney in '55 to do that, it made me realize just how ahead of the curve these guys were. they were talking about stuff most people don't know anything about today. What was it? I can't remember the guy's name. He was a NASA scientist. All these guys were like Princeton and Harvard professors. You know, it was the brain trust that NASA was able to attract was insane. And but he was talking about the moon. I think he was talking about the moon, and he said, and we're talking about how we know certain things about the moon. And this thing was made in like 1961. I probably was still an embryo. And he starts talking about, we know the moon is this because he looks at these photographs and he talks about things, refraction, and so there's and the refraction of light and the clarity of this and the depth of that in these, and so that's how we know it has no atmosphere. And you start realizing how these guys are able to piece together things. He starts talking about Mars and so because what limited photos they have, they can tell stuff from that gives them enough information. They can, all these assumptions which have later been proven correct, they start getting, well, in 1961, he's talking about, well, to orbit the moon, we'll have to go at this velocity, at this altitude. They've got all this figured out. Because of them, it's just math. You know, it's literal rocket science.
Well, you have to understand, at the time that Disney partnered up with von Braun, it was a marriage of convenience. Von Braun needed public opinion to get behind what he was trying to do. And Disney needed content to put on his TV show, which generated money for him to build Disneyland. So it was kind of like a marriage made in heaven, and they both jumped in with both feet.
And I would say that Tomorrowland with the big Von Braun rocket out front was probably the moon rocket, was probably that's the iconic thing everyone remembers.
Yep.
I've harped on this before, but I say, in fact, I have my S kits right here. I have my Sikorsky S-55 helicopter, which is in military parlance, I believe, the H-19. But I won't build this because it's in the box and everything. But I have another one in a bag, and I'll build that because it's in a bag. And I plan to put it in New York Airways markings, or excuse me, LA Airways markings, and put it by my moon rocket. Because, think about this. It's 1960. Just talk about how we could do anything and thinking about the future, how we looked at the future as just out there beyond our reach. So, 10-year-old Steve, or with his buddy 10-year-old Mike Machat, can go with their parents to the Pan Am World, it wouldn't have been the Pan Am Worldport because it was domestic. The TWA Sarnen building, which looks like it came out of 2001. Get on a 707 jet in 6 hours, land, and I know because I've done that flight many times, in 5.5, 6 hours, land in LA, walk off the plane, get on a helicopter, hover over LA traffic, and land at the heliport by Tomorrowland where there's a rocket waiting to take you to the moon. That still warms me when I think about that. That was when we were America. Nothing, what are you talking about? Nothing's impossible if you put your mind to it. How many times did we hear that growing up? We really believed it. It wasn't a phrase, it was a conviction.
If Walt Disney had his way and Los Angeles would have listened, there would have been monorails all over Southern California. And
please, Steve, what a waste of money. SoCal doesn't have any transportation issues.
Well, no, because everybody has 4 cars and they're all driving them at the same time, which is why you can't go anywhere.
They don't have transportation issues because no one can get anywhere. Problem solved.
Yeah.
But that still just, it just warms my heart when I think about that. March 16th, 2026 marks the 100th anniversary of the first launch of a liquid-fueled rocket by Dr. Robert Goddard. And, of course, that's the flight that unlocked the future. I did not know that. That should be a national holiday. Did you? Did you know the term flying saucer was coined the same year as the CIA's inception, 47? Interesting.
Hmm.
We're still building a 30-year highway speed to no. Yeah, yeah. A 30-year speed rail to nowhere.
We'd need international rescue to rescue people from the monorails.
Yes, you do. And but you know, when I went down to buy models as a kid, and I would see the X15 or the Concorde or something like that, in my mind, that's something that I'm going to ride in someday. You know, when I was 10 years old, I had my life figured out. I was going to graduate college. I was going to fly F-4 Phantoms in the Air Force, go to the space program, walk on the moon, come back and run an aerospace company. I mean, like you do. Of course, that's what I'm going to do. Isn't that what everybody's going to do?
It's all in your room. You are. It's surrounding you. Yes.
Dream never died. And models were my gateway drug to a lot of this. You know, television and kit models are a great gateway drug to believing you can do anything. I was watching the Bridges of Toko Ri the other day again, and oh God, Frederick March is talking to William Holden. He gives him the thing about, he goes, son, any progress that's been made in this world has been made by a few. And that's actually true. You know, Americans love to run around and thump their chest about how we put a man on the moon. And if you want to put them in their place, go, oh, did you work for the space program? No. I work at a hardware store, you know. So you didn't put anybody on the moon. You know, America's 300 million people. 400,000 were involved with NASA, 40,000 directly. Okay, that means that a very small percentage of people actually had, although we did pay our taxes, but still, we weren't asked about that. And,
Eric just said the link from Bakersfield to Fresno will be done in 10 years, nowhere to no year. So I said, Eric, nobody wants to go to or from either of those places.
We're going to put the train station in Oildale.
Yeah.
Oh, the guy who played Elam Garrick's birthday today is Patrick Robinson. Patrick is the guy who gave me my congratulations for retiring from JetBlue. Monica did it through Cameo. She paid to have him, and he went over. You're only supposed to do like a 30-second or 1 minute video for you. He went over like 5 minutes because he'd flown on JetBlue and he just found interested in that. And he's a great guy, but very courteous of him to do that. But you guys, if you want to see it, I've got it on my YouTube channel on my retirement video.
What courteous? You paid him. Not like you did it for nothing.
No, she paid him, but he did more time than he had to do. I mean, you know, he could have said, "Hi, congratulations on your blah blah." But I was shocked, you know, because the day I retired, Monica was waiting for me at the hotel, and I came straight over from work, and you know there were no bands playing or anything, just another airline pilot, you know, doing his final walk to the concourse. But I got to the hotel, she had pizza and everything waiting on me. It's all I wanted, and she goes, "I have something for you," and she played me that. I almost cried. I'm like, "It's Garrick! It's Garrick, the Scorpio Killer!" You know? And I couldn't have been more thrilled. That woman reads me like a book. That's one reason I make it a point, no matter how much it hurts, I never fib to her because she'll see right through it. She knows me too well. But yes, the Bridge of Toguru was done with models, and I think it either got recommended for or earned an Academy Award for special effects. And now when I saw it, I'm like, that looks like they're shooting rounds at real airplanes. I think they did it with Lydecker. Yep, Scorpio and Garrick. He was also in Charlie Varick and a whole bunch of other stuff. I actually asked my wife if she wanted to watch The Bridge of Tokyo with me, because I said it's the best anti-war movie ever made. Because
Agreed.
It's not anti-military, it's anti-war.
Agreed.
And I explained that, and she goes, I'm not going to watch it. She doesn't like movies with sad endings. It's like, you know I'm not going to watch a movie like that. And to this day, I have never forgiven the North Koreans for killing Mickey Rooney and Earl Holloway.
From what I understand, when they filmed the movie, and I think they were on the Essex.
Oriskany. The Oriskany.
Oriskany?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Mickey Rooney used to perform for the sailors on the ship every night. He would do a little, hour performance for them, and they loved him.
Oh, I'll bet they did. I mean, to have a famous movie star giving you live entertainment, absolutely. And these guys are watching 16mm movies they've seen a dozen times on movie night. And Royce Williams said, yeah, no one knew a Panther could do that. Yeah, Christopher Jordan had any of our wives. That's true enough. Fair enough. Speaking of not Panthers but Cougars, let me show you guys something. I have that bagged old Revell S kit today. The decals really aren't any good, as is evidenced by the fact they've completely flaked off the stand. But I went ahead and built the Revell Panther that I had. This was one that Mr. Van Osh gave me. This was one, I've got some of them here in boxes, but this one was in a bag, so I didn't have any. It's a 1953 issue. Like I say, the decals aren't any good, and literally falling off. Whoops. Okay, there it went. But I'll see if I can say the rest of it. But I might do a little video on this. Of course, it's got the engraving where it says Navy and has the star and everything. But I decided to do this like a topping model. You know, they're very basic. You know, they're made to sit on a desktop. So what I plan to do with this is go to my stash, find some decals that fit it, put basic decals on it, and just without detailing, because, you know, topping a lot of times didn't even paint the canopy frames. It just had bubbles on them. And just use this as like just an old school style desktop display model, you know, just like that. But I got to give it to Revell. This is a 1953 mold, or 1953 production, probably a 53 mold also. And the proportions are right. Of course, you can look through it and see right through the airplane because there's, you know, no engine or anything in there. But I could always put a plug in there as a light block. But I like the idea of just having a very basic, you know, desktop display. Very like you see in the movies. You know, they go in to see the base commander or whatever, and he's got the, you know, the topping model sitting on his desk. You know, very very basic build. And if I build another one, I might see if I can file everything down, make like a real detailed build out of it, and kind of compare the two. But I got to give. I did paint the pilot figure and everything inside the cockpit. He's got I gave him a red helmet and khaki flight suits, what it said. And it actually said that in the instructions. But I still got to put the gear doors on it. But I might make the other one without the stand, you know, and weight the nose and everything and put the wheels on it. But I have got to give Revell credit. Every part fit like a glove. There were no fit issues with this to speak of. No flash. It looks good. It's got the right dimensions. This is about as good as a 1950s model got, I would say. What say you, Steve? You built any S kits?
What's that?
Have you built any of the S kits?
Yes. They always fit well. The molds were great. Very few, you know, lines that weren't correct. I mean, they did a good job on their molds from the beginning. Jim Keeler told me an interesting thing, that when Revell got into the model kit business, now the first kit they made was the Wisconsin, which they still make to this day. And when they made it, Lou Glazer got money from the Kramer brothers, who were a big hobby distributor. They partnered with him.
Mm-hmm.
Every mold that Revell would make, Lou would set it up as a separate LLC.
Every mold?
Yes. So in case one of them went down and they lost money, it wouldn't take the company down. they could just bankrupt the LLC and it would go away.
Lou was a
And
sharp
they did that for
businessman.
years.
Yeah.
They did that for years. They would raise money from investors to make the mold, and then they would make it and they'd pay them off, and then they'd own the mold and keep it, and it would stay in the line. And then when they got to the point where they had enough revenue where they didn't need that, they just, made them on their own. But that's how they got started in making all these molds, was that they had outside investors, and each one was a separate LLC,
Well, isn't that
which was very
interesting?
clever.
Well, Lou was a sharp guy.
Yeah.
I saw him on I think it was one of the Hollywood game shows from the early 60s. It was in black and white. Maybe into the 50s. I think it was early 60s. And
He was on What's My Line?
What's My Line? That's it.
Yeah.
The guy had a deep voice. I mean, he could have been on radio. And,
I asked
he
Jim,
wasn't
I
real
said,
tall
did you
either.
ever I asked Jim, I said, did you ever interact with him? He says, hardly never. He said he stayed in his office and, he did research and he thought up, what to do. And, he said he was quite the guy.
Well, it drove his wife nuts that he was always working, even when he was
Always.
at home. And he was a workaholic, as we call it today. And also...
Even when he was sick.
Yeah, even when he was sick.
He worked 20 hours a day when he was homesick because he couldn't go to the office.
Mm-hmm. And
he did a lot of the stuff they did, which wasn't successful, like the Dr. Seuss stuff
mm-hmm.
and like the nuclear power plant
Yeah.
and a couple of the other kids. He did a lot of market research into making that stuff. He didn't just off the top of his head say, "Oh yeah, this looks good."
He was
let's
the
make this."
anti-Joe Giammarino.
He was, but long term it proved to be right because they had more winners than losers.
Yeah. Well, like they said that Joe would come in, hey, I saw this in a magazine. Hey, we should make this. Yeah.
Yeah. Make me a mold of this by tomorrow. Here's a picture. Well, that's how Andy got started. Andy went there, and he brought his resume. He just graduated school. He took the train out there, and he went in, and they said, okay, they hired him. So he said, show up tomorrow morning. They showed up the next morning, and they showed him a picture of a Di Tommaso
Two
Mangusta.
photos. They gave him, your Giammarino gave him 2 pictures of a De Tommaso Mangusta and said,
And
make
say,
a mold for this.
Here's a block of wood and carve it out, and we need the body for a model motoring car. That was his first assignment. And that's how they
And
did it.
he had the rest of the week to finish it.
Yeah.
Well, I think the most famous thing Andy worked on was probably the Green Hornet cars for the for the 110 scale for the rollover
And
scene.
let me tell you, I'm a big Green Hornet show fan. I always liked that show.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, I watch it on YouTube, and I have the DVDs of the show. And when you see those 2 cars, the only tip is the Chrysler 300. You can see the glue that
hasn't
holds the
dried.
headlights in.
Yeah.
Other than that, you have no idea these are models.
But if you don't know that they're models and you're not looking for it, you don't notice it because it happens too fast. And I'm telling you, those models disappeared. They had to lease them. They weren't allowed to build them and buy them because they weren't union guys. So they leased them. And those wound up in some director's personal collection.
Somewhere.
They're probably on his grandkid's shelf right now with no idea what they are.
Well, the deal was they had to provide the cars, so they'd give them the license to make the kit of the Black Beauty, that 32nd scale kit.
Well, that's how they got the Star Trek shuttle. They hey, we'll make these for you if you we'll have Gene Winfield build the interior and the exterior set, which is what I'm going to do with one of the kits. If you give us the rights to make all these models, and okay, fine, Desilu and Roddenberry just saves our budget because originally, as we've mentioned this before, and Star Trek was not going to have a transporter. That was a plot device they came up with because they couldn't afford the shuttle to build the shuttle set, and the shuttle he had was very Art Deco with curved wings and everything.
Yep.
And I'm like, this thing's going to cost $40,000 to build, $1966.
It's a lot of money.
Tack a zero on it. It's like, we're going to go so far over budget. Well, how can we get them down? Well, let's just invent this teleportation device, and well, how are we going to? Well, we'll just stir some water against a black screen with glitter, and film it and overlay it. We'll do a fade. Don't worry, it'll look great. And the transporter became so popular, it wound up being the actual center of a lot of episodes.
Well, you know where they got the original idea for that? They got it from The Fly.
I'm not sure The Fly was the first one.
I think that was a great way to accelerate the show.
Yeah. So move it along.
Each episode, because you just boom and you transport, you were down on the planet, and you didn't have to worry about the shuttle landing and entering the atmosphere and all that stuff. You just boom, you went in and you appeared where you wanted to go.
Mm-hmm. And the thing is that I'm not sure, but I think by the end of the first year of shooting the Model Enterprise, the big 11-footer, I think they were done with it. They were just using mostly stock footage after that they pre-shot against blue screen. I don't even know if they were shooting any new shots of it after the first year. You see them doing the clapboard. Okay, top view going left, top view going right, bottom view, and just and I've done that when I made videos. Okay, I've got this thing from 10 different views. That's all I need. The model goes on the shelf.
But the thing that's amazing is that show is, 60 years old?
Dude, that show first aired
59 years old?
You talking about Star Trek?
Yeah, 66.
So 66. So it's almost 60 years old.
Yeah, it's 59 years old.
And it's 90-something.
And it still holds up today when you watch it.
In fact, it looks better if you watch it in standard definition because high def, some of the blemishes show.
But the special effects for what they worked with, the models, looks great.
And the phaser and the communicator are still, and the tricorder, they still look good. They have a very modern appeal that hasn't aged. Well, not the very early phasers, and those looked a little kludgy, but the slick phasers that we're used to in flip communicators, they look great. They look good. They look even today. And crap, you pull out your cell phone, it's basically a combination cell phone tricorder. Communicator tricorder. So. And
if you look at the flip phone, the communicator, it was a flip phone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's essentially been effectively acknowledged. And the tricorder is basically the internet.
Yeah.
And the universal translator is Google Translate. We're moving towards that. All we need is warp drive and a transporter. And
trust me, that'll be there sooner than later.
But this is
the other thing is we talked about these science fiction kits. There's a lot of kits that were made of spaceships that were they were spaceships. They never appeared in a movie. They never appeared on a TV show, but they were made.
Do you remember that? I think at one point they called it the UFO mystery ship, and they gave it a name also, some kind of Viking name or something.
Yeah, we talked about that earlier.
Yeah, it was supposed to be for another episode. Leif Erikson. It was supposed to be for Star Trek.
That was supposed to be in the show, and then they cut it. But they'd already gotten far enough along where they made the mold, and they said, "Oh, we'll just come out with it."
Yep, and they've done that with other ones. But if you don't have a franchise to follow, it's hard to make it. So my brother had one. I think it's a cool ship. It even had the little top that opened up with the shuttlecraft. I'm going to grab some light glue here real quick and fix this decal before it flakes off on me. We're going to do a little real-time work on the model here.
I think it glowed in the dark too, didn't it?
Yes, they had one that did.
They had a glow in the dark.
He had the glow in the dark one, and I thought it was cool, and I was like, I don't even know what it's for, but I was like, I'd buy that. Now you go out on eBay. I remember the things were $3, $5 on eBay. Nobody had, but now that collecting became a thing, all of a sudden the price of everything went up, and speaking of the price of models, I am going to be in March. I'm planning to be making the plans now at the Buena. Whoa! Did not mean to squirt that much. First, nothing flew out of here, and then it all came out. I'm planning to be at the Buena Park show. I'm hoping to see everybody there. Eric and Tommy and Mike. I'm going to be there at a table with Mike. And Although I don't think I'm going to bring any models. I was thinking about it, but the fact of the matter is that I'm doing a little work on this thing right here in real time. I'll just wipe the glue on the bottom of the table, and but I was thinking about bringing some models out, but schlubbing them all the way across the country to go sell, $100 worth of models. I'm not sure that's.
Well, I got good news yesterday.
What's that?
The model I built of the SR-71 for my friend who's
did it make it there safely?
He had made it there safely, and he brought it over to the museum, and they are building a display for it to put under the SR-71 in the museum.
Sweet. You're officially somebody in the model building world now.
There you go.
Okay,
and my father said, "Why are you wasting all your time doing these things?"
Because it's fun. I'm helping the museum. It's charity work. That's what you tell them. You got a problem with charity? Okay. This decal is completely flaked off and broken in about a dozen pieces. So what I've salvaged of it, I've covered in white glue and glued into place. So
nah, it'll dry.
Yeah. So let me put this back over here on the shelf before I break something. When they made the miniseries From the Earth to the Moon, Tom Hanks production and Spielberg, they have the scene where it's after Al Shepard's done his pop gun shot into space, and he's at his metal desk, and they're in the astronaut office, and Deke Slayton comes and sits on beside him while while Kennedy's talking about making a thing about, put a man on the moon speech, and and he has this about that tall mercury redstone on his desk, and all I could think was, I want that model. But, well, folks, it's just about that time. We're going on 9 p.m. We got through everything. Didn't go off on too many tangents. So I hope all you guys that are out in SoCal, I hope you can make the Buena Park show. I hope to meet you there. Let's see. That thing's only like 5. So it goes from like 9 to 2. It's not that long. It's like 5 hours. But knowing me, I'll probably want to. Even if I went there to try and sell stuff, I know me, I'll probably want to buying stuff. But I'm really going there.
You sell $100 worth of stuff and buy $400.
There you go. But I'm going there to meet people and have a good time. And Mike was telling me that a long time ago, a while back, it was everybody bring their rare kits. You'd have all these $200, $300, $400 kits. People were looking for stuff that was hard to find. But sadly, with the relentless march of time, a lot of model builders have passed, and their kids are just there trying to sell off their collections, and so it's sometimes a great place to pick things up. But I guess we've entered in the stage model building. But we'll see. I'll get there. I'm not going to have any ground transport. I think Jim's probably going to be there, so he's going to run me over to this popular hobby shop in that area. I think when we're done. But what I'd like to do while I'm there is, I've never been to Griffith Park. I'd love to go see the observatory and take in one of the shows. So how can I put this ever so delicately? If one of the glue troopers with ground transportation happens to want to spend a day at Griffith Park, just saying, save me an Uber. But I'm a generous guy, but I am also not above accepting the generosity of others, which is pretty obvious every time I do an unboxing, which, by the way, there's a box on the way here, so it should be here in a few days. Shuttle's coming along well. The figures are painted. My wife, I'm not supposed to tell everybody she helped me with it because she's extremely discriminating about her work, and this is not the standard she's used to because I had already globbed too much paint on them by the time she got them. So anything about them that looks salvageable is because of her.
Just make sure when you go to Griffith Park and you're standing in front of the observatory, just don't go, oh, look, there's the giant with the school bus.
Eric just volunteered to drive me around. Oh, Offer accepted, and and no wiggling out of it. That's it. Tag, you're it, Eric.
Stuart Gregory says, watch out they don't try to tax you for your time when you're there.
Yeah, really. Once I get a hotel and everything set up, I'll let you know. Hey, Paul, it's the first time I've seen you here tonight. I haven't had a chance to read the stuff. And, yeah, Max is playing fly out, you haul back. Don't laugh. That thought has actually, like, so there we go. Okay, guys. Well, Steve, any parting shots? It's that time.
No,
it's Valentine's Day, so I'm going to go watch a movie with my wife.
Time flew, and I think it was a great topic, and everybody was engaged, and I'm glad that they came for this episode as they do for all of them, and I can't wait to see what we whip up for them for next week. So, guys, have a good week. Thanks for spending time with us, and we look forward to seeing you again next week.
Guys, that was almost very excellent. I hope you had a little bit of fun. And that's pretty much all I got for tonight. We'll talk to you later. As always, other hand. Model on.
Far beyond the world I've known, far beyond my time. What am I? Who am I? What will I be? Where am I going? And what will I see? Searching my mind for some truths to reveal. What thoughts are fantasy? What memories real? Long before this life of mine, long before this time, what was there? Who cared to make it begin? Is it forever, or will it all end? Searching my past for the things that I've seen. Is it my life, or just something I dreamed?
the secret. To find the answer is to keep it. You'll believe it when you find something screaming across your mind. Green slime. What can it be? What is the reason?